Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. I'm your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. This show goes beyond cryptids and Bigfoot. We take a much deeper dive down that rabbit hole. We take on subjects beyond our very own realms and realities. We look at strange phenomena and the unexplained, such as time travel, alien and UFO existence, strange hauntings and mysteries. We focus on all of these rabbit holes and how they come full circle. Tonight, Bettina Moss and Dogman. We're going down that rabbit hole with Bettina. And as always, the Bearded Wonder Tex will be joining me shortly. Subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Both shows currently being streamed on either channel. Please share us, subscribe to us, and just love us. You can find us on Odyssey and iHeartRadio and KPNL Radio. Thanks to the lovely Selene out in Oregon for that. You can find us for most podcasts, broadcasts. If you like our content, the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat. Long after the show is over, the Super Thanks is open. If you care to donate, it is appreciated. Any contributions are appreciated. However, liking, sharing, and subscribing is most important. Don't forget to smash the alert bell for all the shows across our platforms. I'm going to go ahead and take down the music here a little bit. And don't forget, Mondays is Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does a little ditty called With the Mysterious Library on Untold Radio, AM, 10 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, Shiro Papers, Jason McLean, 9 in the East. Jason McLean Questions Everything the very same day also comes on at 10 in the East. Quick note, Jason is under the weather. So tomorrow, Wednesday, taking a hiatus. So everybody wish Jason a speedy recovery. I don't think there's anything too serious. Talk to you, Jason, a little later. Love you, brother. Thursdays, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. It airs at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The Blondes and the Booze podcast, 9 o'clock in the East on Thursday as well. And Friday, we end the week with the Blondes and the Booze and the Woo at 9 in the East. Both those shows can be found on Texas Front Porch and the Blondes and Booze podcast. Subscribe to the Blondes and the Booze. Can't forget the talented Jessica Jones. She does a gig on Spaced Out Radio on the weekends, 10 in the East. Go check her out as well. With that being said, I'm going to bring up my partner in crime, Tex.
Bang, bang, bang.
Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. You know, I was going to ask how your holiday went, but I just talked to you on Monday. We had a cool show that went over very well. Kind of a wrap up. And that went good. And today is kind of, well, I'm not going to call this a wrap up show. I mean, it's the last show for Beyond BMR for December anyways. And you know how we always talk about, I love this guest of mine, Bettina. We're going to bring her up in a minute. I'm glad to finish up on a strong note. You know what I mean, Tex?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You always want to finish strong.
Got to finish strong. I know Bettina was on Texas Front Porch several months ago. And I said, yeah, I got to grab Bettina. And you know what? I'm going to bring her up right now. You ready, B? I'm bringing you up. Make sure the hair's all pretty, makeup all done, looking good. Here we go.
Well, I'll tell you what, she improves the view of any room. There ain't
Yes.
no doubt about that.
Can you hear us, Bettina?
She is battling some gremlins, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
You're battling gremlins.
You with us?
Yes.
Yes. How are you?
Am I glitching out, or am I okay on y'all's end?
Right now, if well, we got to. I think we have to let it roll for a few minutes to determine that. So far, so good.
Okay, good. I didn't know if my Wi-Fi was glitching. It's glitching out. There's been some crazy stuff happening around here of a paranormal nature, and I think that it may have possibly be having something to do with that.
Well, right now you're sounding really good.
So I don't know. It's been crazy on around here.
No, if it stays like this, everything's going to be good. You heard me?
Great. And if it goes out, y'all just yes, I heard you.
Okay. Well, Bettina, I must get on with it. And first of all,
Yeah, I can hear you good.
okay,
I think we got a little delay going.
I think we might be a delay. We'll just keep rolling. I'm gonna just start saying, for everybody out there listening, I met Bettina few months back, and I thanked you personally, but I didn't thank Bettina publicly because I was talking to her, and you went ahead on Facebook and you set up a Bigfoot a brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob thing on Facebook, and you asked me, hey, would I like if I had a group, and I said, well, yeah, and you said good because I already did it, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool, so thank you for that. Yeah. So I'm like, well, thank you for that. I didn't even know the Blondes and Booze at the time,
You needed it.
and they became moderators. So, it's funny how things come together like that. So thank you for that.
You're well. You're welcome.
Oh, here we go.
You know, you
I
might, boy,
felt
hey, you know what,
like
Bettina, you're starting to fade out.
you definitely good promotion for it's a good promotion for the show.
No, and I do appreciate that.
Starting to fade out.
No, yeah, a little bit. You might want to try something, and maybe a little later we can bring it back. If you just want to, I hate to do this. You look so pretty, but if you want, like, shut off, maybe your video for the time being, so we can hear you, because you are like kind of like a 2 second delay, and maybe that has something to do with it.
Just for my. All right, let me go out and come back. What I may do, I may just have to do it from my phone because this.
Okay.
Let me do that. Y'all keep talking, and I'll be right
No,
back
yeah,
in.
no. Me and Anil can hold it. We've been doing this a while. Just come on back, do that, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you so much.
Well,
All right.
it, it, it wouldn't be one of our shows if we didn't have some gremlins show up. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
no, we do. Hey, it is live, and and everybody's setup is a little bit different. And hey, I went through the gremlin issue for quite some time until I finally got mine straightened out. And Tex, you have not had that too often, I don't think.
I did when I was first starting out, and but you know, knock on wood, not lately. So
Yeah, yeah, not lately. And so I guess we're waiting on Bettina Moss. She's going to come back and to try a different connection. I think she's going to go to her phone. Um, I never really did. I think ask you though. Your Christmas that went well for you, right? You had the grandbabies over, right? Or actually, yeah, I think you did for a little bit. Had a little soiree.
yeah, we had a little soiree over here, and um, it my kids showed up and uh, had Christmas with the grandson, my youngest grandson, and it was good. It was good. It's nice because all my kids are older, so the my youngest grandson, he's 4, so he's just 4.5. So he's that age where Christmas is exciting to him, and he tears into them gifts and everything, and it's real fun. So it
Yeah,
was it was a good time.
yeah, no, it sounded like a good time. This time of year, this past time of year, I was kind of busy. I had a lot of fun myself. I had 2 or 3 different parties throughout the week. Then we had the big get together on Christmas Eve, and everything worked out well. And it's that time of year, and you know, as fast as as fast as it comes, then it kind of it goes right away. But we still got another. I'd tell everybody got another week left of still being festive. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, um, we got Saturday night? We got New Year's Eve. So
Yeah, we got that big game, Tex. We got that big game.
is that Saturday or Sunday?
It's on New Year's Eve, so I believe that is Saturday.
Mm-hmm. That is Saturday.
Yeah, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Well,
Tex and I-
I'll go buy you some. I'll go buy you and Brandy some condolences cards and
Oh gosh, for anybody who doesn't know, Michigan plays TCU on New Year's Eve, college football. The winner goes to the national championship game, and Tex and I have a side wager. The winner is going to get a steak dinner from either myself or Tex. And I'm kind of looking forward to having some Texas barbecue, a Texas barbecue steak, Tex. So I hope you'll be ready for that one, because I know we're going to smoke that team down there.
well, I'm not real sure. Am I going to have to come to Michigan and get a damn steak?
Well, no, I tell you,
do y'all even know how to cook a steak up there, or do y'all?
I'm fantastic at it, Tex. I can do a good steak. Being in the bar business, I had to learn, kind of fly, and now I do it pretty well. But no, you don't have to come to Michigan, because I know that I'll be in Texas within the next 6, 8, 10 months, whenever, like we always do. Got to try to make that at least once or twice a year for the conventions, and hell, maybe just to hang out at one time. Who knows? You never know. As long as these airline flights go down, which it looks like they kind of are actually, but we'll see. As long as gas goes down, yeah, we don't have to wait that long.
Darkwood says northern steaks are the bomb.
That's right, Darkwoods.
Man, I don't know. I gotta y'all got a tall order to top a Texas steak,
Well, I guess I tell you what though, I'm sure. Well, I was just in Texas with you for that one last convention, and we had Mexican food. But hey, listen, there's no slight on Texas. I know they have great food down there. In fact, I want to have some Texas steak. Okay, everybody. Not to get you all hungry. Looks like Bettina's back. We'll give her a couple minutes to settle in.
Already looking better.
Yeah, looking better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
She gets done moving furniture.
Yeah.
Y'all hear me now?
Oh my God.
Fantastic. So much
beautiful.
Better. Okay, great. I'm not used to doing it from my phone, but I don't know. I'm telling y'all, there's some crazy stuff going on around here, and there's some stuff that I refuse to talk about out loud because it's crazy. I've seen some of the scariest stuff I've ever seen in my life last week.
Well, that really sounds mysterious, and we'll have to talk about it later.
Well, I mean, if you need any help, we can. We can probably get you some help.
Oh no!
No! Good grief!
Oh, good golly! She's probably not used to using the phone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I'm working on that. I'm trying to get help. Text. I've been praying and stuff like that. So that's part of the reason why right now I think a lot of people in the cryptid community or whatever in the cryptid world, they realize that sometimes when you delve into these shows and doing research and start exposing these things, they don't like that, and so they decide to show up.
Well, I tell you what, yeah, you're right, Bettina. But I tell you what, on our shows with me, BMR, Tex, you're always welcome here, and we appreciate the hard work that you put into it, because you do work hard, and I know you've had some experiences. And I got to tell you what, again, I thank you for helping me, because you have helped me with promotion along the way. I consider us to be friends, and I am your friends. So for all you naysayers about Bettina, I back the woman 1000%. So boo on you.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate it.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. But you know what? Because I don't know how long this is all going to last because of these connections. We got to get right into it. Bettina,
okay.
why don't you tell us, because I know you said this before, much like when I talk about my Bigfoot encounter, but you've had
Mhm.
some fabulous encounters with the dog man and your property, or your parents' property in Alabama. Why don't we just
Mhm.
get into it, and let's
Okay.
roll. Let's just roll. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Well, basically, so when I had my first Dogman encounter, it was in 2013, November 2013, the week before Thanksgiving. I already knew about Dogman because I've been watching several shows like what was it, Brenton Song when he was still living at that time. Big Condom Show, Dogman Encounters, Dark Waters, plenty of shows, cryptid shows were out at that time period. And so I already knew about, I started out like listening to Bigfoot encounters on several different shows before I ever knew about Dogman until I came across Dogman shows and I started kind of, I laughed it off at first and I was like, wow, they're just reaching right now. They're just pulling anything out of the air. And until I started listening to more and more encounters to the point where I was like, oh, wow, there's something to this. But like anybody who's ever had an encounter, if you don't expect to actually one day have your own encounter, you're not thinking about that's gonna possibly be you one day. But I'd heard, I don't know what year I first started hearing about that, but I just never thought I would have an encounter or a sighting. So I think 2013, that was my first year of ever having a dogman sighting. And at that point, I think I had been listening to dogman encounters for probably I don't know, probably about 2 or 3 years at that point. I was listening to them like religiously all day, every day, like on the way to work, lunch break, after work, all the way up till I would go to sleep every night. So on the night that I had my first dogman encounter, it was one of those weekends, like on weekends during hunting season. My ex-husband at the time, he would go hunting, and sometimes he would be gone for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday night, all the way up until Sunday or sometimes coming back Monday. And we lived like about 45 minutes away from where my parents lived at. So instead of me just sitting at home on the weekend, I would take my little dog and we would just go and spend the weekend with my parents. And I was really, close to my parents at that time and still now that I said, well, I'm just going to spend the weekend over there instead of sitting at home being bored all weekend. So that particular weekend, and I know it. I don't have a date on it because I never did like just try to narrow it down. I guess I can kind of probably Google it and look back and see what the actual date was. But it was that Friday night, the week before Thanksgiving, because I was thinking about like, okay, well, next week what my mom's gonna be cooking, and so I'm thinking about all that. And then that night, like I pulled up to their house, and I'm kind of extra, and I always say this on every show. So whenever I have um, go over to their house, I would always pack a suitcase, even though it's for like 2 or 3 days. I would pack for like 5 or 6 days because I had to have like just a selection of clothes and shoes and jewelry, makeup, and all that kind of stuff. So I would do the most. But this particular weekend, I actually decided, just like any other weekend, I pull up to the curb and I'm going to kind of build it up for you guys first, so you can kind of have an idea
Oh
what
yeah.
the, the layout of the land looks like. So off of the main street, which is Elm Street, off of that main street, when you pull into their neighborhood, if you make a right into the neighborhood, um, you make a right into the neighborhood. When you make that right directly into their neighborhood, if you keep straight ahead, that end of the neighborhood where I would always pull into ends at a cul-de-sac. So that was like a dead end, but there's like 5, 6 houses on that end of the street. But if you pull into the neighborhood and you keep straight ahead, you're on that cul-de-sac. If you come into the neighborhood and you make a left, you're going straight further down into where all the other houses are. So that night, when I pulled up next to the curb, um, my parents have a driveway. Do y'all remember the ranch style houses back in the 80s? They were kind of like rectangular, elongated. And you remember back then, people didn't have all these like wooden fences. They had more of the chain link fences back in the
Right.
80s and 90s.
Yes.
They had a chain link fence. Behind their backyard is that it's a crop, but it's sometimes the cotton field, sometimes it's the soybean field, and sometimes it's the cornfield. But the woods borders that on every side. So basically, when you pull up to their house, their driveway was at an incline. My parents had a driveway which they had like a lattice. They had the lattice built on to the driveway to have a cover over it because for the longest time they didn't have like a driveway that was covered. So both of their vehicles are underneath that, and on the extended driveway they had on the right side, my dad's pickup would always be there. So whenever I would come to their house, I had to park on the sidewalk on the street below, and there was this oak tree that I would always park next to on the sidewalk. Now, since I told you when you pull into that neighborhood, the woods is directly behind their backyard, and also from where I'm parked at, I'm parked. I hadn't cut the car off yet. There's a path that leads directly straight back into those woods. I hadn't gotten out of the vehicle yet. But usually when I pull up, I would just pull up and park and cut the car off right away. But that night, I think the reason I didn't, I don't know why. I think it was because I was supposed to see what I saw. I pull up. I've got the headlights still on, and I drive a 2008 Cadillac CTS, and I'm telling y'all this for a reason because it's kind of important. Um, if any of you who have ever driven a Cadillac, you know the Cadillac headlights are garbage. They're very garbage. They don't give off enough headlights or anything. And on that end of the road, they didn't have basically any street lights down there. So somebody didn't have their porch lights on, or if they didn't have um, floodlights or anything like that on. It's really dark back there, but there's a path that leads directly into those woods. I've been back there before as a kid, but I never thought about it as an adult. My parents moved in the house in 1985, and all the years I've been back there, I never really saw anything that I thought was strange. I didn't know about Dogman until like probably 2010, 11, 12, whenever I first started hearing Dogman sightings. So I never really thought about that. I never even thought about Bigfoot. I would just listen to the stories, but I never thought that I would actually see something. So on this particular night, I pulled up next to that curve. I parked. The headlights are still on, facing that straight towards that path, and just sitting in there. And because I knew about Dogman, even though I thought I'd never have an encounter, there's still something at the back of your mind that still you have this fear of like, well, I just don't feel comfortable just getting out. Like, let me gather everything that I can that's in the front seat or on the passenger side on the floor. Let me gather all that stuff from the driver's seat and gather that and pick up everything. That way, when I get out of the car, all I've got to do is get out of the car and walk around to the other side and get my suitcase out the back. So I'm gathering stuff from the passenger side seat and the floor. And after I gather everything that I needed so that I wouldn't have to like take forever outside of the car because it is extra dark, it's about 8 o'clock at night. After I gather everything I needed, I looked back up. And when I looked up and I looked straight ahead down towards that path, I saw something that shocked me. I already knew about these creatures, like I said before, but I wasn't expecting to see that. I look up from gathering my stuff, and when I looked up, I was like, "Oh my God, I know that's not what I think it is." So
Yeah.
I put
Now,
the high beam.
hey B, how far away was this now when you looked up this time? And
Okay, so I'm not good at gauging distance, but I will say this because I don't know how much time it passed later on when I decided to actually trace the steps. But if I'd gotten out of the car, actually traced it after that time period, after having that first sighting. I
yeah,
got out of the car and I took several steps to see how far it would be from the car to where that dog man was. And it took about 60 to 70 steps to be. If I'd gotten out of the car that night and took about 60 to 70 steps, I would have been face to face with that dog man that night.
okay. So 60 to 80 feet, we'll guess.
So
If you walk a foot, I mean, I'm just guessing. So that's okay. So you're pretty close.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I said, I know that's not what I think it is. So at that point, I put the high beams on because, like I said, the headlights are garbage. So I put the high beams on, and when I put the high beams on this creature, I saw like my worst nightmare. I saw a dog man standing before me. It had his back to me. It was never on all fours. It was on 2 feet from the minute I saw it down to, it never went on all fours. It had its back to me. Even though it had its back to me, once I put those high beams on it, it turned and turned back towards me and it faced the car.
Oh
A
wow.
regular animal, a regular dog is going to basically look back, you might look at the car, a coyote, a wolf, any other regular animal, they're going to look back at the car or your vehicle and that's it. But they're not going to have the wherewithal or the knowledge enough to know to look straight into the windshield, straight into the driver's seat, and straight into your eyes. This dog man stood about 8.5 to 9 feet tall.
Wow.
It looked straight back at me and it looked straight into the windshield. And when it looked straight into the windshield, we're eye contact. We held eye contact for anywhere between 8 to 10 seconds. Um, this dog man, as all of this is going on, I'm thinking in my head and I'm talking to myself and I can't remember now because it's been like 9 years ago. I can't remember now if what I said, if I said it out loud or if I um, said it in my head, but I was actually thinking or talking, and I said, "Please God, don't let that thing walk over here because if that thing walks over here, this will be one of those times where we'll actually open the door and be able to get in here." Because there was times throughout the years where, like with your automatic car door locks, like when you drive off or when you park, they will lock automatically. But there was times like I would get off from work and I would pull up in my driveway at home, and my ex-husband he would come up and the door's supposed to be locked. He would come right up, walk up to the car, and open the door. And I would look at him thinking, "Oh my God, how did you just open that door like that?" Because the back of my head was like, if this ever happens and I ever were to have a dog man encounter, they would be able to walk right up. I'm thinking I'm safe this whole time, thinking that there's a dog man. I mean, thinking that, the doors are locked. Even just if you pull up to a curb and there's some creep or whatever standing on the corner, you got that safety in your mind that the doors are locked.
Mhm.
So that night I said, this will be one of those times this thing will be able to open this door. The next thing I heard in my head, and this is what people would call the woo, when they have that telepathic speaking, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? This
Yes.
is one of the times that I would say would probably for me be the one and only time that I would say telepathic speaking actually took place. What I heard next in my head after I said that was, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." And this thing literally turned its back and casually continued to walk down that path into further into the woods. So at that moment, I knew to myself, okay, I didn't think too much about it then. I thought a lot about it after that encounter. But after I thought about it later on, and I'll give it a description for everybody who's in the chat right now listening, I'll give a description on this later. But at that point in time, I didn't think that what that meant when it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." Like I said before, I knew that my parents had basically moved in that house in the 80s. So basically, since it moved in the 80s, I didn't know if that meant that this thing has been here all this time or if this
Right.
thing has been the last few years and it's just seen me out here. Because at my house, 45 minutes away, we didn't have a fenced in backyard. So I would always look forward to going to their house on weekends too, because I would let my dogs run around and play in the backyard back there. So had it seen me out there, they didn't smoke at all, my parents. And when I would go over there, I'd be outside. I might smoke. I might just whatever. So I didn't know what that meant. But I'm going to give y'all a description of what it
Okay,
looked like.
really quickly, I did want to ask you something really quickly. Hold that thought.
Okay.
When you were, because when you were locked down for like 8 to 10 seconds staring at this thing, I mean, if you count back in your head, 8, 9, or 8, 7, 6. I know I was bad at math. I know, Tex shaking his head. But when you were locked in on this thing, when I was locked in on mine, it was like 3 seconds. That had to feel like, I mean, what was going through your mind right at that spot? It's like, man, that's a long time, Bettina.
So what was going through my head at that time was I was thinking, is this thing gonna walk over here? I was thinking, I actually had a tear rolling down my eye because
Yeah.
so it's not something. I was in awe. I was in awe. I was in shock. I was
Yeah. Okay.
terrified. And I will also, and I know this sounds crazy, but also at the same time, I also felt this sounds crazy as hell, but I also somewhat felt privileged that I'm actually able to see this thing in real time, but also fearful too, because everybody that lived on that end of the neighborhood, nobody was outside. I'm the
Yeah.
only one out there. And I know how people say how these things can run so fast. They can run so fast, they can um, go invisible. I've seen that happen too, and I'll get into that later. But
Okay.
knowing all these things, I'm thinking this thing could at any moment be over here, like within the blinking of an eye, like right up on me. But when it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal," what that said to me is that this thing knows who I am. It's not worried about the fact that I'm seeing it. It's not stressed out at all. It's like, okay, business as usual. I'm gonna walk on down this path now. I'm not worried about you. I think that what happened was is when I pulled up to that curb that night, since that was on a cul-de-sac, most people who portal into the neighborhood, they're gonna make that left and they're gonna go down where most of the other houses are. So I think what happened is that, and I'm gonna tell y'all this and I'll explain it later, but what had happened, that dog man, I seen the full body. I didn't see it um, behind trees. I didn't see it behind bushes. It's like full body. Like I'm looking at it in real time, like full view from head to toe. I think what had happened was this dog man was standing in front of, and I call it a bush, but it's a tree. And the reason I call it a bush is because of the way it's shaped. Like you know how bushes, like you have tall bushes, but this is it's the length, it's the height of a tree, but it's just kind of rounded like an umbrella. Do you understand? It's rounded
Hmm.
like an umbrella to the point to where I've gone to that tree and looked underneath it. That tree is large enough. The way it's shaped at the bottom, it's like an umbrella, somewhat to the fact if you're playing hide and go seek, about 20 adults could fit under there easily, maybe 30. It's that big underneath that tree. So you can just imagine probably 8 to 10 dog man or more, 12 dog man or whatever probably fit under there easily. The perfect spot. I think that what had happened was that when I pulled up to that curve that night, the fact that that dog man had his back to me, I think it had just come out of that tree and was already getting ready to head down that path already. But when and they're used to whoever comes because I feel like they watch people and they watch the neighborhood and they know who lives where. They know what time. This is my thought. They know what time people are in for the night and not coming back out. There's some neighbors who've been living there for years while I grew up there. And there's a man across the street who would come out and smoke, and he'd go back in after he got through smoking. So they know who's out and who what time to come out and when they're not going to have to worry about anything. I think I caught that thing off guard that night. So anybody else who pulls into the neighborhood, they're going further down. It did not expect to get spotlighted by me that night. It didn't expect somebody to pull up and have the headlights on. So I think that's what happened. But when I spotlighted it by putting those high beams on, it turned around because it's like, well, I know they can see me now, whoever this is. When it realized it was me, it wasn't worried. So I'm going to give you a description of this dog man. Most of you know who, like, when you see a dog man or you've heard dog man reports, most of the time what you hear is a dog man that looks like a black German Shepherd or a wolf with the tall, pointy ears, elongated snout, the amber eyes. That's not what I saw that night. That night, I saw a black dog man that stood about, I'm going to say, anywhere between 7 to 8.5, maybe 9 feet tall. Um, it didn't have the elongated snout. It had a broad snout, more like a pit bull or a Rottweiler. It had more of the crop style ears, and it didn't have amber eyes. It had these luminescent blue eyes. The color blue was the same blue like you saw some of those tropical island blue ocean pictures. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yes.
those, it was that color, but take that and make it luminescent and glowing from within. I don't mean because my headlights were on it, because the Cadillac headlights are garbage. They kind of flare out and they're more towards the bottom. This had nothing to do with that. This thing was tall enough that the headlights did not go to its eyes. This was glowing blue eyes, that color. It had the upper body of a bodybuilder. You could see the abs, you could see the pecs, you could see all that. It had that tapered waist. It had huge thighs, a hawk style legs, and I don't remember anything about its feet. I just know I did see its feet, but what I was more tuned in on was its eyes, because it was looking straight into my eyes, and I didn't want to take my eyes off of that. I don't remember when it had its back to me. I don't remember seeing a tail. I don't know why. I just don't remember seeing a tail. I don't think it had a tail, but if it did, maybe it was short. But that's what I saw.
Well,
So that was
that's really quick text really quick. I know you got a couple questions. Before I forget, I think that's really interesting. But be that it had the bodybuilder body, but it had the hawk legs, which I've heard that all the time. But I've also heard the bodybuilder style had regular legs, where the hawk style just came from, as you described earlier, just like a German Shepherd, a thinner one. Because I believe there are two versions, and I think that's very interesting how you brought that up. Thanks for that. I'm sorry, Tex, go ahead.
I was going to ask about the legs, because mine, and I think a lot of people and may misidentify actual dog legs with just their long, narrow feet, and they're up on their toes. And that heel makes it look like that it's dog legged. That's what mine looked like. Ours were very similar in appearance, with the shorter snout. Mine, the ears, they weren't really long, and they were laid back. Like how the dog will pin his ears back, or a horse. And the eyes, mine had brown eyes, just like a freaking dog, But do you think that it's possible that that's what you were seeing? It was just up on his toes, and that was just a long heel, long narrow foot, or do you think it was an actual, backwards facing leg?
We all say back. I've heard people say the backwards facing leg.
Yeah, they're not really backwards facing legs. They're just, dog legged,
If you take your dog and you stand it up on its hind leg,
Yeah.
So it's like literally like you take your dog, stand it up on the hind leg with that hop, with that rounded hop, where then it kind of comes down to the knee, and then that knee bends in, and then you got the elongated, I don't know what you would call that, lower part of the leg. And then you know how a woman, when we wear high heel shoes, when you wear high heel shoes, the foot is kind of like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you wear, that's what it was. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe it. Now that I've only seen another one, and I'll go into those other encounters shortly. But there's been only one other time where I saw one full body outside of that first encounter. Now, I didn't, that night I saw that I didn't have my camera, or I didn't have my phone out. I wish to God that I thought that I was going to have an encounter, and I wish I had a dash cam that night, because if I had, y'all would have seen like one of the greatest Dogman that you've ever seen, like in real time, in real life. And you would have been like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it out loud, but you would have been like, oh my God. Like, if y'all seen that movie, what's that one? I don't know if this is Van Helsing. I think, did y'all see Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman?
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Did that one have that? I can't remember. That one had that short snout, didn't it?
No, that was more of a wolf.
Yeah,
long narrow snout.
Whatever y'all can think about, and maybe I'll share this. Rob, I'll share this in your group later, because I do have one that's similar to what this one looked like. But that thing, I didn't feel any fear off of it. I was crying, or had a tear rolling down my face, because I was in awe, shock, and there was some fear there too, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, mom and daddy, like, and y'all remember, like I told y'all before, these old houses, ranch style houses from the 80s. Back then, they didn't have storm doors like they do today. They had them screen doors.
No, yeah.
And sometimes mom and daddy, like, I don't care if I'm pulling up over there at 8 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. Sometimes, just that was their natural thing to do. Sometimes they would have that screen door locked. So I'm thankful, and I don't know if they did that night or not, but I'm thankful that I didn't just get out of the car like I would normally do, get out, like pull up, put the car in park, get out and walk up there. But
Right.
thinking back on it now, looking at it, there were times when I would pull up to their house at night and they've already gone to bed because they would go to bed early back then. And I would be standing out there sometimes waiting for my dad to get up and, put his pajamas on and come like unlock the door, never knowing that something like that was back there. And so now thinking on it, all these years, it kind of scares me because it's like you, at any point, these things could have walked up to you and nobody would have ever known what happened. You know?
You'd be snatched up. You'd be snatched up.
Missing 411. And right. So after that night, so when that happened, that thing turned around after it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." Turned, walked on down that path into the woods. And that night was the first night that changed me. I didn't stop going to my parents' house on the weekends after that, but what I started doing was no longer getting out of the car and going straight up to the door. If it was dark, when I pulled up, I would call and say, "Daddy, I'm outside. Unlock the door. I'm going to get my stuff out of the car, but do not walk off from the door. Stay there the whole time and wait until I roll this suitcase up the hill. Do not walk off." And they thought it was ridiculous. They thought it was ridiculous, but I was like, "I don't care what you think. Stay there. Do not walk off."
Did you tell them what you saw?
Yes, and they still to this day, they think it's ridiculous. Matter of fact, my dad came over here. They brought me some food the other day because it snowed here, and they just decided, well, Dad doesn't like to drive at night, so he decided, well, we're not gonna stick around. We're gonna head back. But I had a book on the table, a Dogman book, and I had I still got Josh's Paranormal Roundtable pillow, and I have a book here from Martin Groves. And Daddy picked up and looked at me, and he was like, They think it's ridiculous. You know how your parents be like.
Yeah, your daddy probably said, "Don't leave the leftovers for the dog man."
I would be upset with him because they used, like your parents got leftovers, and every now and then I would be outside smoking or whatever. Daddy would walk to the end of the fence and throw food or leftovers. I'm like, "No, don't do that.
Here we go.
Do that. You're feeding them. Please don't do that." And he just looked at me and said, "Are you serious right now?" And I couldn't take it. And at one point I had him to build it. I had decided I wanted to do a project, and I wanted him to build a doghouse. We were out there in the shed, and the shed, I had a key, but you have to lock it from the outside. And that whole time I'm thinking, God, please don't let one of them things, because at any point they could come right into the backyard if they wanted. They could have opened that door. These things can open doors. And I'm thinking, Daddy, can you hurry up? This is enough. We've done enough for the night. Let's go back in. It's hit dark now. I'm going to go inside the house. We're not finished yet. Okay, I'm like, you know what? I'll never tell you to do another project again because this is scaring me right now. So that was that first encounter. That night, I didn't go into the house. I called inside and I told my nephew to come out. He came and walked.
Before you get into your other two, I know you have several encounters, but I did want to take just a brief moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had the one encounter. I know you've got several others, which we definitely are going to get into. So, but now after this encounter, right? And I know you're fresh. You knew about Bigfoot and such. Moving forward, before your next couple encounters, and you can elaborate after those as well. What are you thinking this thing was? You think it was just what are you thinking it was? You thought a flesh and blood creature? Do you think that maybe it was something from another dimension or something, or even question your own sanity? Because I know I would have.
At that point in time, I had not done interviews with eyewitnesses. I would listen to several shows, but I had not seen some of the stuff that I saw later on after that encounter when I decided to start researching it, when I decided to start going out and recording video, and when I started some of the stuff.
Uh-oh.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, you sounded better, actually. Keep going.
I had not seen some. Yeah, I had not seen some of the things at that time that I knew about or had saw or heard about at that point in time. So at that point, I did not know exactly what to make of that. I didn't know if it was flesh and blood. That didn't even come to my mind yet. I think for the most part, I probably thought that they were flesh and blood because I didn't know what I knew now. Can y'all hear me?
Thank you, Willis.
Thanks, T. Willis, for that. Appreciate it. Sorry. Yeah, I heard you. You're sounding good.
Yeah,
Bettina, I've got a couple of pictures. And you mind if I show them to you and see if that's kind of what you were looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's the first one. It's just a sketch.
Didn't look like that at all. Not that.
No? Okay.
I wish I do have a picture in my phone text, and I'm gonna send it to you, and I'll send it to Rob as well. If I could leave, I wish I could leave this screen and not worry about like it actually knocking me off the show. But if you just take a muscular bodybuilder and paint its body black,
Right.
take waist, put a Rottweiler's head on that, put a pit bull's head on that, and that's what I saw.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Do that's exactly what I saw. 8.5, 9 feet tall.
So really, yeah, the shorter snout,
Cropped ear.
Cropped ear. Man, Tex, even maybe you even be, you always hear, and I don't think this is that, but the first thing I'm thinking is, you hear about that Gugwe where they kind of look like a Dogman or maybe a Bigfoot, but they have that shorter snout,
Right.
I'm gonna put it to y'all like this. My thoughts on it, because that's not the only type that's not the only type I've seen.
Right.
So
Okay.
here's my thoughts on it, because then I'll go into some of the other encounters in a minute, and I will also tell you some other that I've
Go right
witnessed
ahead.
with that lets me feel like that. No, there's more to them. They're not just. I'm not gonna say there's not some that are flesh and blood. I think that there's some that are flesh and blood. I think that there's
Yeah.
some that are flesh and blood and supernatural at the same time, or which I would say probably would be more like the Nephilim type, part fallen angel, part wolf, dog, cryptid, whatever, a human. It's a conglomeration of stuff. And then I think that there's some that are, I don't even like the one, based on what happened here last week. I get scared to say it, but I will. I'm just gonna pray after the show is over with. But I think there's some that are demonic that are able to shapeshift and transform themselves into whatever they want you to see, whatever you are into. If you are into researching aliens, or if you are into researching the Illuminati, or whatever it is that you're into researching, if it is of occult type nature, werewolves, vampires, then it's going to manifest to you as that. So I do think that happens too. But
I did want to tell you really quick. You can say whatever you like on this show because what you said to me makes perfect sense. Who knows what the hell these things are? Some are flesh and blood. I think some are demonic. I think they shapeshift. I mean, not one. There's more than one entity out there, and I say entity or phenomenon because whatever is on your mind, speak it because that's how we learn. And no, I mean, yeah, I think there's the flesh and blood. I think there's inherent evil in a lot of these things. Not all, and then some probably just mind their own business. Like the one that said, "Hey, oh, it's just you." Well, guess what? Because he probably knew you from all those years with mommy and daddy, right? Mom and dad. So, but yeah, no, speak what you want to say. That's cool by me because if you don't, that's really where you do a disservice. And I agree with you on everything, whether it's a flesh and blood, supernatural, the Nephilim, whatever. So I'm sorry for that, but I just want to let you know, just do what you got to say. What you got to say.
No, the reason I was kind of hesitant to talk about that last aspect, as I said, it was because of what happened or what manifested here last, and it was, I literally had a full-on panic attack, and I still get nervous just thinking about it right now. I still cry about it. I still get upset about it. I've had to pray. I've had to pray the Lord's Prayer. I've had to rebuke, renounce, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people don't realize when it comes to the cryptid field, when you get into researching this stuff and you start exposing stuff and you start talking about the deeper levels of what it really is, these things don't want that. And so that's what is going to make certain stuff start manifesting in your house. Like sometimes, and I've dealt with sleep paralysis since 2004, off and on, all the way up to present day, to the point to where anytime I would talk about it or bring certain stuff up on a show, They don't want you talking about that stuff. So when I would talk about those certain things, then that night, then I might have an episode of that, which means like after this show, maybe I should pray before the show, but I'm gonna definitely pray after this show is over with because
Yeah.
I do not want to see that again. I was
Well, and we're going to
so,
help you out on that too.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
going to send some prayers your way after the show as well.
and I'm
Yeah.
gonna let y'all know, and I'm gonna take it even deeper for y'all, and then I'll move on from this. But like, I was actually on video chat like with a minister at that moment when I saw what I saw like a week ago, and they actually in real time they were on video chat because I was, praying and I was having deliverance and I'm trying to get my spirituality back and my relationship with Jesus and the Lord back like it was before. Because sometimes when you get into this stuff and you start researching things, sometimes it makes you question your faith. And
Yeah.
so when I got to that point, I think when you do that, you give these things power or an opening or an invitation into your life or into your home. Scott Carpenter has talked about this, and I know Daryl Denton, he's down there in the comments right now. Daryl has also talked about this. When you get into it, these things will come into your home. They don't want you talking about it, but if you don't have a right standing with God, if you're not balancing that research that you do on these things, then that's an open invitation. Same thing as with vampires and stuff like that. People think that vampires, I've never seen a vampire. I've heard that they actually exist and are real too. But the fact that a werewolf, for lack of a better word, the fact that a werewolf or something that looks like a werewolf is actually out there, and we've been told dogman, werewolf, and stuff like that, monsters don't exist. They lied about that. It does exist. Why does the Bible tell you? And I've thought about this in the last few days. So why does the Bible tell you don't eat or drink anything with the blood in it? I know people were doing sacrifice. They were sacrificing humans. They were sacrificing animals and stuff like that. That's why later on it said that Jesus came and he became the ultimate sacrifice. And therefore, there's no more need for sacrifice for forgiveness of sin. There's power in the blood because it says that the life is in the blood. And when you take that and you look at that, if the life is in the blood, and you know that a vampire is known as the undead, and the way that they survive and live is because of drinking the blood of humans. The life is in the blood. That is what enables them to continue to go on and live. What do you think is adrenochrome when you go into that? And I'm not trying to divert off because I'm going to stay with Dogman, but I'm just saying that when it comes to that, these things need that blood to live. That's why you're not supposed to eat or drink anything with the blood in it. These things are sacrificed according to the Bible. They're sacrificed to demons or evil spirits. Therefore, when you go into that, when you look at a vampire, when you can see them like straight on and then sometimes not be able to see them in the mirror. Do you understand? You can
We
see
understand.
them, but at the
Definitely.
same time, there's some dogs that you can see that are like with your natural eyes, but there's some that you can't see with your natural eyes that you can only see when you pick up your phone and you record it and you look and you remove the phone and you don't see it. Or same thing with I don't even want.
Bettina,
I tell you what. Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah,
right now
I was about to say
and take
because
a break.
let you take
kind of
get your
take a
thoughts
breath.
together because you know what, you can roll on for another hour just what you're talking about. I love you. This is awesome. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. Bettina Moss, hey, before our break, you on YouTube? I know you are. Right? Give everyone your channel real quick before we take the break.
My YouTube channel is called Crypto Normal. That's CRYPT. Is that CRYPT? Crypto CRYPTO Normal Encounters with B Moss. That's the YouTube channel. The Facebook group of the same name.
Okay. Well, hey, any of our cool mods out there, go look her up and drop the link for Bettina. And with that being said, I'll give the mods a chance to find that. And B, get your thoughts. I'm going to get my thoughts. I love this text. B Moss, great show. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back.
All right.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. Two-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond BMR. I am Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Thank you to T. Hollis earlier for that super chat. That is appreciated. Lily, thank you ever so much for dropping Bettina's link in the chat. I appreciate that. And I see CD put something up on the screen. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to bring everybody back on up here. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Brown Dwarf, for tuning in. Be kind. Dark Woods, Amy, Sandra Piper. Who else we got out here? T. Willis, the BDRP, Gene Hudson, Chad, Brown Dwarf, a whole host of others out here. Crystal, Dan Ortega, everybody. If I miss you, I'm sorry. I love you all. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for subscribing. Subscribe to Bigfoot Mr. Rob, Texas Front Porch, Bettina Moss, Her link is in the chat. Thank you again, Lily, and thank you, T, for that amazing super chat. You know, Bettina, this is a fantastic show. I can tell your brain is rolling. Your brain's rolling. You got so much information to disseminate. And as I said earlier, you can say whatever you like on this show because we believe, and I believe in you, Miss Moss.
Thank you. I appreciate
I
y'all.
was a little dramatic, I know, but what are you going to do? You got to be a little entertaining.
Well, you
I'm
already know.
glad he's not. I'm glad he's not corny or nothing.
Y'all already know I'm extra, both of y'all. I'm extra. I'm extra as they come. But if y'all have any more questions before I move on to more encounters and more
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah, we both do. Being, you know, it's gonna be one of those shows, and yeah, you know, before we go on to your other encounters, Tex, I'll give you what's on your mind, Tex.
Well, you know, Bettina, me and you both have experienced Dogman, and it's when you said you think there's ones that are just flesh and blood, and then you think there's others that are not just flesh and blood. That's where I'm at, because what I saw, I in my heart of hearts, I believe it was flesh and blood. Okay. But mine acted kind of like yours did. Like it just kind of like turned its head, growled at me, almost like it was just saying, just keep your distance, boy, you know, and you'll be fine. And it just went along its way. But, and then you started talking about these things manifesting in whatever way that people are looking into or are interested in. And see, that's what I've been talking about for a while. You know, what if these things that people are encountering, that people that are mind speaking with, are not these creatures that they think they are? You know, it's something else. You know, even out in the woods, you know, it's what if they are presenting themselves as what they know you want to see.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, that is scarier than any flesh and blood critter that we're going to run into out there. You know? And
yeah. But it is, because it's not just black and white, it's a gray area.
yes.
And people don't realize that the paranormal, supernatural, alien sightings, sleep paralysis, Dogman, Bigfoot, and every paranormal activity in the home and stuff like that, all these things are all intertwined. And if you put it all together based on the fact of the things that I've seen, a lot of people who had sightings of Dogman or encounters of Dogman and Bigfoot have also seen UFOs, or also deal with sleep paralysis, or also have issues with ghosts, poltergeist, or paranormal activity in their homes.
Right.
Lord, protect us right now while we're talking about this, and protect my home and keep me safe. And I'm just saying that because, you know, you have to, it's important to pray and recover yourself when you do shows like this. But the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of correlations when you put all that stuff together. A lot of times when you've had Dogman and big sightings, you hear people say that, well, they saw lights in the sky back there. Now, when you put that together and you put together the things that come into play when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot, you take all that and you have the aspect of them where some of them, what you can see with your naked eye. Okay, well, what you can see with your naked eye, sometimes that can be straight up flesh and blood, or sometimes that can be a demonic manifestation. So that doesn't necessarily mean, or they could be straight up a fallen angel that can appear. The Bible tells you, and I can't remember, I think it's 2 Corinthians 11:4, where it talks about that even Satan himself can appear or transform himself into an angel of light. So if you take that and you look at that, then you've got something that can shapeshift, something that can transform, and then you've got witchcraft. And when you look at witchcraft, and those ones who do blood sacrifices or human sacrifice or any of those different things, they can transform and shapeshift powerful shamans and voodoo practitioners who are able to do these things. Those powers are given to them through the occult or supernatural power in order for them to be able to do that. So when you look at that, and then recently I was listening to Monster 911 with Lance Hightower, and he had a guy on his show who was actually talking about these things. There's people who actually go out into the woods and actually try to conjure these things up. I look at Bigfoot and Dogman, and for those of you who are out there listening right now who feel that Dogman and Bigfoot or any of these entities are straight up fun loving and beautiful creatures, and okay, well, everybody's encounter and everybody's exciting is not exactly the same. You've got people who habituate these creatures. There's people who go out and feed these things and gift them. There's nothing new. And I'm a Christian, so like those of you who listen, you can take it or leave it what I say because this is just my opinion. I'm just basing this on what I've seen them do and what I've heard. And when you watch these shows, don't just take this as an opportunity to say, okay, this is just for entertainment purposes. Because for me, and I'm sure for Tiggs and Rob also, this is not just for entertainment purposes. We're trying to figure out and understand what these things are and how they operate. So when it comes down to that, the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Well, if there's nothing new under the sun, then that means these things have always been around. They've been here for thousands of years, if not millions of years. I don't know.
Right.
But what I do know is that gifting, you're gifting them, whether you're gifting them food or some other gift, if you take that back to ancient times, back in ancient times, that was called an offering.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
a
give it
type of worship.
Yes.
the type of worship. So therefore, when you do that, you are giving these things permission to come back into your home. I brought this up, and I'm going to change the subject, but I brought this up, the whole thing about vampires earlier, just to say this: when you give a vampire, what the reason with vampires, and like I said, I don't know to say this is real or it's not real, but I will say this because nobody thought Dogman and Bigfoot was real before.
Right.
What vampires have an opening into your house if you give them permission. If y'all watch True Blood or any other vampire movie, you have to renounce that and you have to take back permission that you give them into your home, whether that was through the permission, tell them they can come in, or you look at black eyed kids, they ask for permission to come in. That's why in the Bible it tells you, as far as like demons are concerned, then make sure that you are covering everything, the eye gate, the ear gate, everything that you do. You give them permission to come in by certain things that you are in agreement with. So once you do that and these things start manifesting or coming into your home, then you have to renounce, rebuke, and take that power back to get these things out of your home. Same thing with Bigfoot and Dogman. Once you get out there and you start going into their territory as a researcher, as an investigator, then don't be surprised when they start coming on your property. Don't be surprised when they start coming up on your back porch. Don't be surprised when they come up and start taking your pets, killing your livestock, because you've given them permission to come there. There's a saying that goes, when you start looking into the darkness or when you start looking into the abyss will start looking back at you.
You know, B, you're absolutely right. And before we move on to your other great encounters, I have to bring this up because it resonates with me. And I only bring this up on the show, whatever show I'm on, is when somebody, a guest, says something that resonates with me. You mentioned two things: inviting something in and manifestation. As most people know, in 2018, I had a Bigfoot encounter, which till this day, I think it was part demonic. I believe that to this day. I think what I saw was flesh and blood in the beginning, but they did this metamorphosis and it turned into something that I literally always say, if I do my encounter story, it turned into a demon. Now that was 2018. So I dived into research, right? Looking up, trying to find out what in the hell I saw. So throughout the years of 2018 through current day, 2023, I'd be watching, and it's always late at night, and I'd be watching videos. I'd be watching this and that. Then I'd be watching, it could be Dogman, it was Bigfoot, but then I started watching demonic shows. And I'm just sitting there, and this is through the television, right? And I'm watching these things. And I think I manifested a lot of things that I've seen today after 2018. I've told this story before, how I started having these weird dreams especially after watching demonic programs. And like I told Tex, people that have not heard this, I was sitting in a chair and I was just thinking about, are demons real? It was this thing, I saw a demon, and there was something coming right down the hallway of my where I watched television, and it was circling around my chair, and I couldn't get rid of it. I thought it was sleep paralysis, but I'm wide awake. I'm viewing this program on television, or on YouTube it was actually, and I got frozen. I was paralyzed, and it seemed like it lasted forever. Now, like you mentioned, and it would reoccur all the time. Then I started talking to some people, and they're telling me I'm manifesting these things. They said, "Man, you're doing too much of a deep dive into this stuff. It's starting to take you over." And I never thought electronics through your TV could let something in. Now, long story short, this kept happening. Then, like you said, I do. I'm not a religious guy. I'm spiritual. I believe in God. That's my higher power. I do believe in Jesus Christ, right? So, talking to a few people, this happened again. And as soon as this manifestation of this fog or this mist, it came again. And I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you. I don't want you. Get the hell out of my house. And boom, it was over. So now to this day, I can't do these things anymore, because every time I think I manifest something. Now, is that because I saw something? And a lot of people believe once you see something, you're marked and it follows you. Well, I've had many weird things happen to me in the last 5, 6 years since my encounter. And so what you bring up is totally valid. And what I say, that's why I say you talk about whatever you like, because that resonates with me, because it's happened to me. And I have no problem saying that. Do I know what it is? I don't know. But I do know this. Once I stopped watching these creepy things at night, I'll watch it during the day because I feel safe during the day. But the devil or the demon will get you day or night. I get it. But for whatever reason, for me, it's at night. I don't do it. So the point you bring up, I think a lot of people, I think this does happen. I do believe 5 years ago, I would not, BMR would not be saying this 5 years ago. We can manifest things. I think they can, if you have deep thoughts, things can happen. I know what I saw. I was not dreaming. I know it was not make believe. I was awake. So, when you say this, it helps me. It gives me a more of a sense of what really did happen. And again, it doesn't happen to everybody. I think certain people, you get things can attach to you. That is no joke about things attaching to people. I believe it. It happens daily. And had I not said the Lord's Prayer, that thing would have lasted and lasted and lasted. So, what are we dealing with is really the question. I think it's everything. So
Well,
I'm
you,
sorry, I had to throw that in there because what you brought up just stirred up my memory banks.
if you think about it on a deeper level, on a spiritual level, and there's a scripture in the Bible that, and I don't know if it's referring to this, but you can still apply it. They hate the light because there's no light in them. When I say that, you got to think and put stuff together. When you look at Dogman encounters or Bigfoot encounters, you hear people a lot of times on some of these shows talk about the fact that it's dark outside, but then they've got their floodlights on, and that Dogman or that Bigfoot will only come as far as the end of that floodlight. It won't come past that. They don't want to come into the light. Y'all, you know what I'm talking about, Tex or Rob? Y'all heard that?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Well, there's a reason that they call them booger lights.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the first things, if people are having these things come up on their property, that's one of the first things that you can offer as a, something to try to at least keep them at bay a little bit is, put these lights out there, and sure enough, trail cams, and I think and like I've been talking about here lately, there's two different kinds of trail cams. And I think if you want to drive something off, you use the active IR, because I think these things can see IR, or, maybe not completely, but I think if nothing else, they can sense it, and they'll keep their distance a little bit. That being said, I think that only works with the flesh and blood things that we were talking about. This other stuff that we're talking about, you better have your armor on. You better be right with the man upstairs, because that's what's going to keep them away. And I said this on a show not long ago. You can pray all you want, but if you don't believe what you're saying in your heart, that is a chink in your armor, and these things will exploit it. And that's just that's my opinion, because I've seen it happen. I think that's why we see the hitchhiker phenomenon. People that go investigate this stuff, because when you go investigate this stuff, when you go research this stuff, you're asking for it, and you better be ready for it. Because you have got to. You've got to, if you're willing to get down and dirty with these things, you better be ready for a fight, because they're gonna pull every nasty trick they can to not just scare you, but they will get into your life and they will cause some dark crap to go on. So, and also I do think that loved ones' prayers help protect you.
I do too.
But I really, when I said that about believing what you're praying, if you're not right, and that leaves that chink in it, that to me, that's where your strength lies.
Yes.
I agree.
100% agreed. And going back to what B said about vampires, hey, I believe there's vampires. I know there's now energy vampires and such as all sorts. But if you ever see, I always say this when people bring up vampires and the beliefs of God. When I said that the Our Father or whatever it was I said, it's because I do believe. You see the vampire movies, right, where the vampires you're taking off after a girl or a woman, and they flash the cross at the vampire, right? And he laughs and he crushes the cross in the person's hand. And the person that's flashing the cross is like, as a look of bewilderment, disbelief on their face. Then the vampire says, "You got to believe for that to work."
Exactly. And if you look at it even deeper, I was going to say, people don't realize, like the Bible says that at the name of Jesus, even demons have to bow. They have to stop what they're doing. They cannot continue. But also at the same time, for whatever reason, God gave Satan power. They have to ask him for authority, or they have to ask him for the ability, just like they did with Job, to come and try to test us or try to torment us. And for whatever reason, sometimes that's for a test. Now, if you look at that, and you were just bringing up vampires, when it comes into it, a lot of people don't realize now in the Bible, and I'm not, for those of you who are listening who are of the occult or who are of a secular type belief, you can take it or leave it, but we're bringing this to those who are also fellow believers, and anybody else, or even those of you who are in the occult or secular belief, also understand that these things that are being brought up are valid points, because when you look at it, you have to realize that the same way that a vampire, you can possibly look at it straight on, but then they don't have a reflection in the mirror. The same way with Dogman or Bigfoot at times, where there's times when I've seen them straight, looking at them straight on. I don't know if it's my own eyes, but there's times when I didn't see them and I was taking a picture or recording a video and I saw them on the video. Same thing with the thing that, and I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to say it and just get it over with. The thing that showed up here a few weeks ago, I was on video chat with a minister, and at that time, when this happened, the minister actually saw what was standing behind me at that time. And I started screaming and crying immediately. And I turned my head to look back. And when I looked back, it wasn't there. But then I looked back at the phone again, and it's there. And it's standing there in real time. And so it just made me think about the fact, like, these things have an entrance into your life because of whatever you're researching, or if, because of your spiritual doubt or disbelief or whatever you come into agreement with. So at that point, you've got to take back that power. You got to renounce to get that stuff out of your house. Now, when it comes to these things, people need to realize you have power over it. There's been plenty of times during some encounters that I've heard over the years, listen to other people's encounters, people that I've interviewed, and other shows that I've listened to, where there were witnesses who have stopped alien abductions by calling on the name of Jesus. They stopped sleep paralysis, even though during sleep paralysis you can't speak verbally with your mouth. You can still pray and say it in your head, and they leave. Same thing with some of these Dogman and Bigfoot encounters when they're being bluff charged. There's been times when people have prayed and called on the name of Jesus, and it stopped that in its tracks. So when you look at all these things and you take that back, and it says in Jesus' name, that even demons have to bow, and then you look at these creatures, do you think, and I might be completely wrong about this, like, if you a regular dog that's not demon possessed, and that y'all might think is crazy, but I'm gonna take it back and bring that into fruition too to make that make sense. A regular dog that's just that comes at you and attacks you. I'm not saying that you can't rebuke that. Maybe you can, but even when Jesus cast those demons out of that man of the Gadarene, and when they came out of that man, they went into the 2,000 swine. So those swine were able to be demon possessed. So if that's the case, some of these dog attacks were people's dogs that has always been a friendly dog all their life, and all of a sudden it's like turned on its owner. Sometimes you got to wonder, are these things possessed? And if you call on the name of Jesus and it leaves, then that's the case. Now, I want to say one more thing about this before I move on from this subject, because I'm kind of diverting. But when it comes to, a lot of people don't realize this, but Dracula or vampires, for instance, if you Google and look up what does the name Dracula mean, and before I go into it, before I tell y'all what the name Dracula means, I'm going to say this first. When it comes to Dracula, let me take that back. When it comes to the Bible says one thing that is referred to when it comes to Satan, he's also called the serpent and the dragon, right? Y'all know this? So when you Google, and I didn't know this until I actually watched that movie, and I can't remember the actor's name that was in this movie. The movie was called Dracula Untold. But in that movie,
Yeah, I saw
the guy, okay, remember when the guy said, when I can't remember, the main character went to this guy to find out about that particular vampire, and he told him that it meant son of the devil, right? So I went and Googled it, and when you Google Dracula or Drake, that means son of the devil, or son of the dragon. So if you got son of the dragon, son of the serpent, that's telling you that Dracula is a demon. Why else would they have to ask for permission to come in your home? They have to have permission to come in your home the same way demons do, the same way they tell you in that, like, don't give the devil place into your life by doing certain things, by doing certain research, by doing certain things, you give it agreement. And that's why you have to renounce that. And in vampire movies, that's why they say, I take back my invitation, and they have to leave. It's a demon. Boom. That's all
I
it
gotta
is.
say really quickly, thank you, William Dudas, for that beautiful $50 super sticker. That is so appreciative of your support of the channel. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.
So I know I diverted off, but that's important for y'all to know and just understand that when you're dealing with the occult, when you're dealing with Dogman research, when you're dealing with Bigfoot research, paranormal, any of that stuff, a majority of these things, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the daytime too, because it does, but a lot of these things, a lot of times happen at night. You got to understand that, because these things come out at night. I don't know why, but it does. And they happen more so. And because I think part of that is because you're fearful more so at night. A lot of people are afraid of the dark, adults and kids. Don't believe it when they tell you that when kids have like a imaginary friend. That's not imaginary friend. The kids know exactly what they're seeing. But as a parent, whether you believe it or not, you're not helping your kid when you don't go into your kid and tell them that you believe them, whether you believe them or not. There are things to come out of the closets at night. There are portals. There are things that exist. We were told monsters don't exist. They do.
Yes, they do. And well, and I said this the other night when I was talking about this very subject. Are these creatures monsters or are they monstrous? And I think there's a difference. Now, when I'm talking about the just the physical flesh and blood critters, okay, I don't think those are monsters.
Okay.
I don't consider them as monsters, but they're monstrous. You know, they're no more a monster than a Kodiak or or a crocodile or something like that. It's just they're scarier because they're not supposed to. We're told that they're not supposed to exist. You know, and I don't think they have evil intentions as a whole. And I've said this 1,000 times too. I think it depends on how they were raised up with their attitude towards humans. Because, if it's like I think I said it last night, if Daniel Boone shot one in the ass back in the day and he grew his family up, not liking humans, we're not going to have that great relationship with that clan. But because you see the same thing in the tribes in villages down south in South America and New Guinea and all that kind of stuff that had never had outside contact. You may go to one and you're treated to dinner. You may, skip a mile down river and walk in the next village and be dinner, So I think it's the same thing with these. You have, and I do think that these physical ones, every once in a while you run across one's having a bad hair day or something, and maybe they couldn't get their braids right. I don't know. But I don't think they're no more evil than any other critter out there as far as flesh and blood goes. Now, when we start talking about the other ones, and that's another thing. When we're talking about the other stuff, I don't think we're talking about Bigfoot and Dogman. When we're talking about what we saw, that's all we're talking about is what it presented itself to us as. What it really is. I mean, say it like God only knows. So.
Well, no, I agree with you 100% because like people just aren't looking at the fact of what's really going on with these things because that, like I said before, there's no new thing under the sun. You got to look back to, I can't remember what researcher or who it was back in what was it? I don't think it was DeSoto or one of these explorers that came over here and they actually saw dog-headed race of people when they came here. Are y'all familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I haven't heard of it. I've heard about it, but that's about it.
So it just makes you wonder. And then some people talk about Anubis. And so when you look at these things, it just makes you wonder, how long have these things been around? But if there's no thing under the sun, you got to look at that. And then you got to look at Greek mythology. And when you look at Greek mythology has, or even the Bible, when people were worshiping the bull, you have like Moloch. Were these things gods that they were worshiping? Because they were gifting them too.
Right.
They were gifting them too. And then when you look at the Nephilim or the half human, half fallen angel, then you had like giant humans, creatures. And you got like Cyclops and stuff like that, Jupiter, Zeus, Hercules. And you're looking at these things. These are things that have already been here. So there's nothing new under the sun. You look at this and then you realize that there's stuff that we're not going to ever understand. And if you want to take it to the whole thing with the giants, you could look at the Kandahar giant. Well, that wasn't just an isolated incident. If y'all realize, like back in the 1800s here, just in the United States alone, there were several different giant skeletons that were found here all over the United States. And so it's a scary thing. A lot of people don't like to think about it and realize this, but they were actually seeing things here back then.
Oh, yeah.
And the Smithsonian, once those skeletons and stuff and bones and all that stuff were taken to the Smithsonian, you never heard anything else about it again.
Well, in fact, you can't even find them. They're not even there, I don't believe. Right? They disappeared.
They tell you that they disappeared. I'm sure that stuff still
Well,
exists.
they know where they're at. Yes, exactly.
Warehouse 13.
Yeah.
Well, do y'all think? Well, I know we're diverting off. I can talk to y'all all day because I got so many different areas. I started researching stuff back in early 2011 when I was researching the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, secret societies. All this stuff is intertwined. You got people who have actually come into like researching, and I'll go back to my encounters because I know y'all we're getting short for time, but
well, we're good. I mean, you're doing fabulous, and I'm learning some new stuff. So is Tex, and our audience certainly loves it. So
you have to be,
Bettina. It's like you said, and it's like we've been talking about for a long time, and
yeah,
honestly, I think that's kind of what connects us, because
yes,
we do agree that in some way all this is connected. We just don't know how. All and when I say let me rephrase it. We don't know why. What's the agenda here?
Okay. So we're all trying to figure out what that agenda is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when you look into it, and if you got into the whole New World Order, or when the Bible talks about the beasts of the field in the last days coming forth to do his will or whatever, I guess, for the ones who are disobedient. If you take that and you look at that, then are these things the beasts of the field? Now, there's several different things like within the Bible that let you know some of these things exist. You got the lion-head men of Moab. You got that. And then in the book of Enoch, it talks about the fact, and I wish, and I'm going to have to go back and do some research and pull up those sources, but there's cases in the Bible, in the book of Jasher, the book of Enoch, the book of Giants, that actually goes into greater detail that also says that the animals were also being defiled by these fallen angels. So if the result of a fallen angel and a human is a giant humanoid type creature, then what do you think you're going to get when you get a fallen angel and a wolf or a dog or a fallen angel and a ape? You're going to get a Bigfoot type creature, or you're going to get a Dogman. So this is not brand new. What are they here?
It's not in Tex. I got to chuckle. I think you are too, Tex. But Bettina, she just fits right into our group, doesn't she? You are, B. We talk about everything that you've mentioned throughout the night. We discussed on our channels, New World. We talk it all, and it's so refreshing to have you on because, you're like a glove. It feels like I'm putting a glove on. Everything you say, we all relate to, and you're such a great show. Thanks for coming on and expounding on this because, not everything we agree with, certainly, but everything you're talking about, we discuss and we believe. And there's certain things with all these things that it's just a mystery that all, together, all of us are trying to kind of, hell, I don't even know if the word figure out is correct. Just maybe understand or offer what we have.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think on a lot of this stuff, some things we're not going to understand because I think it's designed that way. And I think it's designed that way because if you look at the powers that be that are behind all this, I'm trying to look at something because I wanted to pull up y'all stuff, but something is designed for you not to understand it. You got the powers that be. When people feel like if we just bring in a Dogman body or Bigfoot body, then that would squash out. No, it's not, because the powers that be, the state and national parks, the DNR, the government officials, whoever these secret alphabet agencies that that come in, they already know that these things exist. And the reason I say that is because when you look at it, some of y'all don't realize that in certain states like New York State and Washington State and some other states, they actually have it in their laws that it's illegal to kill a Bigfoot. Well, why would you put that in your laws if this doesn't exist? This is actually in their laws. Like they've actually got it in there. So you're not going to put some mythological creature. It's like saying, it's illegal to kill a leprechaun. You're not going to put that in there if you don't believe that exists. They know about these things, and these agencies have been already prepared and told when these things come up in these parts and stuff like that, you tell these people you saw a bear. And when you think that you're going to take that and you're going to present that before a news station, no, you're not, because these news stations also have been prepped. It's not going to come out. And if it does, then what's going to happen is they're going to make it out to be a hoax. Some of these attacks, which should not be like, and I don't care what anybody says, that a case with Amber Miller and Tony Arns in Cotton County, Tennessee last year. His was in April of last year, hers was in June or July of last year. The wounds, and I've got the autopsy report on both of those cases, the wounds for both of their bodies, it was beyond what, I don't care if they said it's $3, $4, $5. Those wounds and attack wounds were so bad that you're like, I don't care what you say. This wasn't no dog attack. When was the last time you saw so many feral dogs? Every encounter now when people are attacked by dogs.
Yeah.
Now, when was the last time you just literally, and I'm not saying there's not packs of wild dogs out of there, but when was the last time you saw all these packs of wild dogs just like driving up and down the street? You don't see that often. So you mean to tell me a pack of wild dogs, let's just take 3 pit bulls, for instance. And I'm not saying it can't happen. So for those y'all in the comments, because I know people every now and then like to say, well, it can't happen. They can't rip flesh. Okay, they can rip flesh. But when was the last time you heard of a Rottweiler or a pit bull ripping somebody's ripping their shoulders out of the socket, both arms? When was the last time you heard of a pit bull or Rottweiler? I don't care if it was even 2 or 3. When was the last time you heard of them literally having 15-inch bite wounds that wrapped around from the front of the hip all the way around to the back, all the way down to the lower thigh? Do you realize how large the mouth would have to be for that?
Yeah,
and then but you don't have bear, because you got to think at that point this bite wound is so large. Now, what animal do you have that's mouth is that large where the bite mark or the bite went that far around from the front of the hip all the way around to the lower buttocks and upper thigh area? And some states don't have that, so that don't even apply. So when you take that and then you realize that in that case, especially the Amber Miller case, that the people who had anything to do with that encounter were put on a gag order by the judge and were not allowed to talk about it. And it's still an open case, but you say it was dogs. Okay, is it not a closed case? But no, as long as it's an open case and there's a gag order on them, you can't talk about it. They don't have to tell you anything. Ain't no bear attacks. Ain't no wild dog attacks.
No.
And I'm going to say one last thing, and I'm going to be quiet about this, but as far as the wild dog attack, the last time you saw a wild dog, I don't care if it's 3 or 4 of them, you got at least a chance to scream and holler, and somebody has got a chance in those houses to hear you screaming and hollering. You got a chance somewhat to at least run and climb and jump on top of a car. I've been chased by a dog before. Yeah. I jumped on top of the car so fast. I was on top of the hood and then on top of the roof of the car. So no, you got a chance. You're going to take a stick. It's just not going to take you out. And then Amber Miller was found with her clothes fully removed. No, have several seats.
I think, I'm in agreement with you. And one last thing about the dogs, a pit bull. Hey, you know what? That's what you said is accurate. It's 100% spot on. And the only reason I know this about a pit bull, they don't attack like that. Now, some do attack, but what they do is with those jaws, if they grasp on your ankle or your arm. Now, this is for an adult. I understand there's been other situations I'm not going to get into with little people, little human beings. When they grasp onto you like a vice, they don't let go and they just shake. And certainly that causes damage. But for what you were explaining now, they're not taking sockets of both shoulders out. That's just some BS that people are going to believe because they know that a lot of people don't view a pit bull as a pet, right? But we won't get into that. But I agree 100% what you said. And
Well, Rob, she
so,
was found 45% of her flesh missing.
yeah, right. I mean, come on. I don't care what type of, like you said, you even mentioned 3 dogs aren't going to do that. You're going to escape. That does not happen.
That doesn't
But
happen.
anyway,
And like I said, it's still an open case. So there's a lot of stuff
right.
that doesn't happen. And so I'm also speaking to the people because a lot of people get mad in groups. Some people feel like they would never do that. Listen, I'm going to talk to y'all right now with common sense and have common sense when you go out in the woods. If you don't want to go out there with a weapon, fine, don't. But keep common sense in the back of your mind too, because if you go out there, realize that there's other things out there, whether you think that they're fun, loving, and beautiful. Great, that's great. But also understand there's still bears, there's still wolves, and there's still crazy people out there in these woods too. So have common sense. I'd rather go out and have protection than not have it. And at least use common sense. And then if you look at them like a regular natural animal and not some supernatural being, and also look at the fact that with the teeth and the jaws they have, and they are a predator. If you look at them like that. And also, last but not least, also understand when it comes to these cryptids, also understand that they have young. For the ones that are flesh and blood or partially flesh and blood, understand they have young they're going to protect. If you come too close to their nest or to their dwelling, some of these bluff charges, because they're just trying to run you off like any natural animal would. They're trying to protect their young. But also understand some of them don't want you in their territory. Don't go out there and think you can go out and piss on a tree. You're marking your territory now. They don't want you doing that. So when it comes to these things, sometimes maybe they just ate. You got lucky that day. And for the ones of you who have them on your property and you feel like they're fun loving and they're peaceful creatures, then I'm not saying that every Dogman or every Bigfoot that is out there will kill you. I'm not saying that. Some of them may be peaceful creatures. But what I'm saying is that I can say this from my encounters and sightings that I've had of Dogman on that property, even still to this day. My parents don't live there anymore, but I went there back in October. I got another one. Probably a really good picture this time that I will share that in Rob's group. I'll share it in my group. Rob's group is what? Rob, what's the name of your group? Because I'm gonna share it in these groups.
Yeah, it's Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob. You should know you created it for me. Thank you.
In my group, and my group is Crypto Normal Encounters with B Moss. Now, y'all want to see these pictures, and y'all go and join these groups.
Well, I'll tell you real quick, B2.
Okay.
I agree that not all cryptids are evil. I think like human beings, and we've all said this before, there's good and there's bad in everybody, right? So it just depends. It just depends on what you run into out there. And before we run out of time, we still have time. You got to get at least one more of your encounter story.
Let's get right into that. So after I had that encounter that night, what that let me know, listen to some of the shows that I've listened to, I've heard a lot of people who go out into the woods, they're hunters, and they say, well, I've been hunting in the woods all my life, and I've never seen this. And okay, well, number one, there's several factors there, and I'm going to get into my other encounters. One, you're not seeing them because a lot of times they're in the trees, and if you're hunting and you're a deer hunter, you're looking on the ground, you're not thinking about it. Number two, these creatures have the ability to camouflage really well like a natural animal, and they also have the ability to go completely invisible. And third, they also have the ability to do what I like to call the predator effect. You don't know what that is? Watch the movie Predator. You will also see Dogman and Bigfoot have the ability to do that as well. So when I realized that a lot of times they're in the trees, because majority of the time, most people who've taken pictures of Dogman and Bigfoot have taken pictures. They're hiding behind bushes and trees, and that's why those are the people who will say, well, why can't you get a full body shot? Well, why can't you get a body shot? They're not just going to come out, and for whatever reason they're able to blend in. Now, because of that, that's what got me started to taking videos and pictures and on a regular basis, and even going back into the woods to get more documentation and information on this. So after that encounter, I can't remember how much time after 2013, was it a year later or a few months later, when I felt comfortable enough to go back there, but I took about 5 or 6 people back into those woods with me. And after that, sometimes I would just stand outside of my parents' house and record from the doorway. Like there was a box that I would sit on top of, a huge toy chest, and I started recording. these things don't always stay far back in the woods. A lot of times they'll come right up within a few feet of your backyard. And a lot of times, actually. So from that point, I started recording and taking pictures. One encounter I had, which the first encounter I told y'all about, it looked more like a German Shepherd or Rottweiler type dog man. The second sighting of a dog man that I had, standing outside of my parents' house. This time I'm not in the car. I'm outside. I'm sitting on top of this toy chest, and I'm recording. And there's a dog man that's back there. I saw it in real time, and I also saw it on video as well. I have pictures of that same dog man. This one did look like what the average dog man sightings explain. It was what I call the black German Shepherd head dog man, or a new dog man. It did have the pointy ears. It did have the elongated snout. It didn't have the amber eyes. The eyes were pitch black. On that same picture and video, there is not only just that one dog man on there, there's also a juvenile or baby dog man on that same picture. And there's other people who've looked at that picture and said, well, there's other ones there too. So there's that one. That's one encounter. That one I've seen on 2 occasions. I don't care if I was out there for 20 to 30 minutes to an hour. They're able to remain completely still to the point where if you don't take a whole bunch of pictures consecutively back to back, you won't see it with your natural eyes. I don't know why, because they're able to move with the movements of the wind through the leaves and the trees to the point where you won't see them if they're turning their head or blinking. So in order to catch that, a lot of times, if you will record with video, you will see that, or if you take several consecutive pictures, you can catch those movements on pictures, and I do have that. So that's the black German Shepherd head dog man. That's one encounter. Another encounter after that one that I had was on another weekend, and all these encounters are on weekends at my parents' house that they used to live in before they moved. Another encounter that I had was when, and I told y'all I didn't have a fenced-in backyard at my parents' house, so at my house. So at their house, I always enjoyed the fact that I could take my dog out and let her play in their backyard because they had a fenced-in backyard. On one day, I'm back there. She's playing with the soccer ball. She's running around having a good time. And there's something that told me when I was in that fence, look over to the left, look up in the trees. When I looked over in the trees, I saw something that was blacker than black. This was daytime. It was broad daylight. It might have been around noon. I can't tell you exactly what time it was now, but it was broad daylight. I looked over in the trees, and you know when you look in the trees, you know when you can see shadows. It's going to be somewhat black or off black. It's not going to be black like the abyss. There was something that was over there that was blacker than black, and it was a huge space of darkness. On that day, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it didn't make sense for something that black to be right there. So I kept calling my little dog. I said, Chloe, let's go. And I have a little Yorkie. She's like 3 pounds. She was young at that point. She's taking off. She's running. She's playing, having a good time. I couldn't get Chloe to come back to me for the life of me. I'm like, Chloe, please come on. Let's go now. I finally got Chloe to come back, picked her up. But before I exited that fence, I turned around to take a picture and to take several pictures. And before I left that backyard, I looked, and what I saw was something, that blackness that I couldn't make out features on it. That blackness that I saw something that made me say, "Oh hell no!" That was the end of that sighting that day. I said, I'm not coming back out." I saw a black dog man. This head, y'all heard of some of those counters on some of these shows? They talk about the head was the size of what do they talk about? Like the size of a cooler.
Yeah.
This head was so big. I'm like, oh hell no, because once you see that, a head that big, that body, that ain't no 8-foot dog, man. A head that big, it's got to be about 12, 14. I can't even tell you. I saw both eyes. This is another one that didn't have the elongated snout. This is another one with that cropped ears, and it had that short snout, Rottweiler pit bull type. And not only, it was looking at me when I took this picture of it, it was snarling too. You could see all its teeth. It was snarling at me. But not only that, now I saw that blackness in real time. But when I took the picture, I could see all the features. I didn't also realize that there's another whole dog man in that tree, full body. I got pictures of that. There's a full body, another dog man in that same tree, also full body. This one I call the husky or wolf dog man. Its body is charcoal gray. You can see the charcoal gray. It has a light colored snout. You're looking at it from a side profile. The snout is light gray or white. Um, you can see it from, so you're looking at it from a side profile. So you can see the ears on both sides of the head. You can see one eye, and then you can see the head and neck area down to the shoulder area. And then across its waist, there's a branch with leaves going across the waist. Below that, you can see the rest of the body. You can see the lower waist and the hog leg, and you can see the feet. The feet are the exact same color as the snout, that white or light gray color. And it's standing up, full upright in that tree. So I call that one the gray wolf or husky Dogman. There's several more that I can go into, and maybe if y'all have me back on another show, I can go into more. But because there's more to discuss with this. Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Because I think my Bluetooth is about to die. But I will say this. There are other things to discuss as far as Dogman is concerned. That is just one encounter. Three. I've given you three right there. That's not all. There's more. And there's also some paranormal stuff that happened along with that. In EVP, electronic voice, what is it? Electronic voice phenomena.
Yeah.
You can capture them on that too when you don't think so. They can go fully invisible. They can manifest, and they can come up and sniff you. I will go into that on another time. I know we're right about 2 hours. I don't know how long y'all got.
Yeah, well, we're going 2 hours. Your Bluetooth is running down, and frankly, I know Tex and I could go another 2 hours. I know everybody in chat could, because Bettina, you're just fantastic. You gotta you're coming back. Right? That's just there's no question about it.
I
No
hope so,
question
because I
about it.
got more for y'all. I got a lot more for y'all.
Oh, I know, and we'll look forward to it. I'm sure Tex will get you on the front porch as well. We got to spread the love that Bettina provides everybody with her
Oh, thank y'all so much.
fascinating and awesome.
Because thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on the show. And like I said, for y'all who are out there in the comments right now, make sure y'all share, and subscribe to Texas Front Porch, also Bigfoot Michigan Rob channel, and also Crypto Normal Encounters with B Moss. We all have groups also under the same name, and support us, because like right now, Tex does a great job on his show, and he puts this information out there. We do these shows, we do it for y'all's entertainment, but not just entertainment. Everybody's doing these shows also for your information, because it's important, because the powers that be are not going to let you know this. So when you listen to our shows, don't listen to it for entertainment purposes, especially if you are people who actually go out in the field and do this research. Go out there, take this knowledge, and for every encounter and every show that you listen to, put all this information together and put common denominators. You got to make it make sense, because there's much more to this than y'all realize. And once you understand that, then you will understand that you do have power and authority over certain things, and you will also understand what to do and what not to do. And I also believe, and this is my last thing I'm going to say before I go, but also understand that there are certain people, for whatever reason, that have certain gifts of discernment and spiritual gifts. Some of us can see things that others can't. That's why some people who, you can see a blatant Bigfoot or Dogman in a picture, and it's a great picture, and you got people in groups and on shows like, I don't see it. Sometimes it's not for you to see. Sometimes there may be a veil over your eyes, but for those of us who do see it, understand there are things out there that when you realize that, all I'm saying is that there's things that you're not aware of, and these things are around us all the time, much more than you even realize. So be careful when you go out, and understand to protect yourself when you go out. Be careful, and just understand that you are in their territory and in their domain. So when you go into their home, into their territory, into their domain, you're also somewhat giving them an invitation, and especially if you give them to come back to your home as well.
Well, Bettina, I'm gonna step all over Rob here for a second. I want to thank you for being so brave to come forward, because honestly, not just the encounters, but the stories and the opinions, the beliefs that you're putting out there. It takes courage to do that, and I hope people understand that. And I want to say one thing, and I'll let Rob have his show back.
Oh, Tex, you're fine. I love what you're doing right now. I really do.
when we get off when we get out when we get off air, I will be sending some prayers your way. So, you know.
Thank you, and I will reach out to y'all. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, and you have to be careful, and you got to stay prayed up. You got to ask for protection and go out there. But also, like I said, for y'all researchers that go out, understand that there's other things. Ask for protection when you go out in the woods, because there's other things that are taking place out there that you don't even realize is happening. These things are also being conjured up as well. And be careful not to take things back that you find out there. Don't take those things back to your home, because you're also bringing that. This is spiritual nature. This is a lot. So I'll come back with them whenever they have me back, because there's way more to discuss as far as it's concerned on a supernatural aspect that I didn't even get into yet.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you know what, Tex? You never step all over me, brother. That's why I love you. That's why we work well together. In fact, our entire channel, what you said regarding Bettina, I could not have said more. My sentiments exactly, Bettina. I respect you and what you come forward with. People have a problem with it. You know, that's their problem. It really is. They can call me or text if they got something to say. But you know what? That's what we do. Tex, again, thank you for that. Thanks, Tex, for being my co-host for this show. Bettina Moss, again, thank you so much for joining. I got to give a quick shout out. T. Willis, Lily Pond, and Be Kind. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to Bettina Moss. And for everybody, for Beyond BMR, Texas Front Porch, and B Moss, we're going to say good night. B, stay on if you can for a couple minutes after, okay? And then you can go. I got something to ask you. The rest of you have a great night. Thanks for supporting us. Thank you so much. From BMR Text, and once again, Bettina, we're out.